DY Card Ladder is the industry leader in sports card data. We know what you want because Card Ladder was created by collectors for collectors. Card Ladder. Join the innovators, not the imitators.
Hey guys, Brian with Cajun Cardboard coming at you from the unshaven Brian from Cajun Cardboard, coming at you from the great state of Louisiana. And welcome back to the show. Very shaven Chris McGill, head shaven Chris McGill. We're doing it again. We're doing it again, Chris. I'm excited about this one, man.
I had to get completely prepared for this one because this is a very important comparison here, Brian.
What year were you born?
I was born in 1986.
Okay, so Kareem was still roaming the hardwood.
Yeah. He was fresh off of a Finals MVP, if I'm not mistaken.
Trudging
right
back
around
and forth,
that time,
dragging his old ass up and down the court, trying to keep up with Cooper and Scott and Magic and those folks. Yeah. So anyway, we buried the lead. Today's video, we're going to talk about. It's the third installment. If you missed the first two, go back and check it out. I've got a playlist on the channel. We're on a quest to determine the 10 greatest NBA basketball players on paper. And it's a deep dive. It's a detailed analysis. We're looking at analytics. We're looking at, points, rebounds, assists, old school stuff. We're looking at VORP, which I still probably can't figure out, but that's why Chris is here. We're looking at winning. We're looking at teammates. We're looking at era. We're looking at pace. We're looking at per 48 minutes. We're looking at all sorts of stuff. We're going to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. And at the end of this, it's going to culminate in you and I doing a grand video where we kind of go through our top 10 players of all time, 10 through 1. And the important part is in order. We're going to put pen to paper. For the first time in my life, I'm literally going to go on record, pen to paper, and say, this is my order after a lot of research and a lot of digging. Even though we're probably not going to align perfectly, it's going to be great topic of discussion. And these videos should be evergreen, man. These are videos people can go back and watch 10 years from now. If there was videos like this that were 20 years old, I'd go back and watch them as well.
I have no idea, Brian, how you're going to come down on the top 10, to be honest with you. And going through the this is the fifth and the sixth players we've looked at so far. It has not made it any easier. It's only made it harder.
It hasn't. Razor thin. So for those that missed it, the first episode was Duncan and Kobe, and both of us sided in a razor thin margin. Duncan slightly over Kobe for lots of reasons. Go back and watch the video. We won't rehash it. And then in the second video, it was Magic and Bird. And I'll be honest, the margin was even thinner for me on Magic and Bird. And I think we both just, tie goes to the runner, Major League Baseball reference, went with Magic very, very closely. Despite Bird's preposterous, 3-year run and really 5-6 year run.
Yep.
Here we are again. And again, we're not picking players that are in any particular order. We're picking players that are fun to compare for various reasons. Like Kobe's a shooting guard, Tim Duncan's a power forward, so we're not always going by position. Magic's a point, Bird's a small forward / power forward, whatever you want to call them, small forward. And then today we've got, at the time, one of the, these are the two tallest players that ever played the sport of basketball, probably for about 30, 40 years of basketball. And they both played the center position. So this will be good. We get to compare two centers, but there are some differences in the eras that these guys played in, which we'll do our best to fill in some blanks because there's a lot of blanks when it comes to talking about Wilt Chamberlain and his statistical greatness. There's a whole lot of blanks that you have to sort of just guess on, right? Guesstimate.
Yeah, Wilt puts a lot of pressure on you too, not only because of the statistical gaps, but because he was so statistically dominant, but it only, as we're going to get to, accompanied 2 championships.
Yeah.
So it really puts the pressure on how do you balance individual achievement versus team success.
This is the first time we're looking at what we'll call him a prehistoric player, right? A Wilt, a Bill Russell, an Elgin Baylor, a Pettit, a Mike. And this is the first time we're looking at a dude like that where, when we look at, whatever, Tim Duncan, we can say this guy blocked this many shots per game. How do we know that? Well, every game he ever played was recorded and they kept track of blocks. Well, guess what? Wilt doesn't have that luxury. Nope. And so you'll hear, I'm old by most standards, so I'm 50. You'll hear dudes in their 60s and 70s, guys that played against Wilt, played with Wilt, and just folks that watched, games in person say that Wilt might have averaged 10 blocks a game more than once during his career.
That's unbelievable.
So how do you even process stuff like that? When it's right now, it's just a big blank.
I know there are two data sets that need to be compiled. One is we need play-by-play data going back as far as possible. Right now, it starts in 96, 97. And I know there are some statisticians for the NBA who are compiling play-by-play for at least Michael Jordan's career, which is pretty good. And then we need blocks and steals to the greatest extent possible. But it's someone just needs to do it. I mean, it won't be perfect, but I mean, the NBA has so many resources. I mean, can't we just put like a group of researchers on this and get this done?
Yeah. Look, let's just throw this out there just to begin with. Like we're looking at, did this player win a Defensive Player of the Year award, right? And we haven't gotten to one that has. Like Kobe never did, Duncan never did, Bird didn't, and Magic didn't. But these two guys, I think they probably would have, Chris, but they didn't give the award out until 1982, and by then Kareem was in his 14th year. Wilt never got a chance to win a Defensive Player of the Year. For God's sakes, I mean, again, Russell was there, so it would have been a tit for tat. It would have been a two-man race almost every single year, but it would be nice to look. I mean, he could have 4. Russell could have, 10 or something, 4 and 8 or something crazy, right? Those guys are not going to get the benefit of those statistics when we're doing this analysis and when we have to ultimately conclude what our top 10 is in order.
Yeah, that's true. But there are some advanced stats that try to estimate it, like win shares, tries, and but yeah, we're never going to know, man.
There's more. There's some. We can't get too deep into the analytics, but there's some analytics we can. So the first thing I want to say is this is the first time we're going back and looking at what we're going to call a prehistoric player, a player who, played in the 50s and 60s, primarily touched into the 70s. I'm talking about Wilt, won a ring in the 70s, of course, with the great Lakers team. They did not have Elgin Baylor, which was an interesting deal. And then we are another reminder. We are not taking people in a time machine and dropping them into the 2025 NBA Finals. So when we say how great they were, like I would say that Bob Pettit is a greater player historically than Alperen Şengün. But that doesn't necessarily mean Alperen Şengün would not kick Bob Pettit's ass, right? In their prime if they played. So we're looking at numbers on paper, accomplishments and statistics against the peers in their particular era. There's no other way to do it because let's be real, players in today's era are significantly bigger, stronger, faster, better conditioned, scientifically constructed, and overwhelmingly more skilled than they were back in the 50s and 60s. And any old man who says that is not true is in complete and utter denial.
Yeah, exactly. And it's even things as simple as they wear much better shoes. Do you remember even during the arc of The Last Dance when Michael Jordan for his double nickel in the Garden brought back his original rookie year shoes, and he was like, I can't believe we used to play in these. My feet are soaked in blood. I mean, just little things like that can make enormous differences. And also, when people discuss like, hey, like your example, Şengün versus Pettit one-on-one, and Şengün has all the benefit of being raised during this era with this nutrition, with this technology, with these shoes, with these, training regimens.
Creatine. I mean, go through the list, dude. Whey protein powder, creatine, the weight room. How about just knowing to ice your knees after games?
The question we have to ask is if Şengün were dropped back into, let's say he was born in 1948. And he didn't have the benefit of any of these things. Then what would it look like? People always go the other way. Well, if you put Pettit into this era, well, what about the other way? What if you put?
That's a great observation. What if we took Bo Jackson and put him in the major leagues in the 40s? That would be fun to watch.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So let's kick it off. I just want to remind everybody that we're looking at numbers on papers and things like that. Let's talk about it. Kareem and Wilt, we always start up top, games and seasons. It looks like Wilt played about 2/3 as many games as Kareem and about 3/4 as many seasons as Kareem. So just kind of keep that in mind when we're looking at these aggregate statistics like titles, championships, all NBAs, all the different stuff. It's really tough for anybody, really, other than maybe a Karl Malone, a Stockton, Kobe and Duncan would be in the conversation. Guys that have played 1,560 games and 20 seasons, 2 decades worth of seasons. Of course, LeBron comes to mind. So Wilt didn't have a short career by any stretch. Now, again, people forget when he came out of Kansas, he went and played with the Globetrotters. I think for one season because the NBA wasn't paying enough. And so he would work as a bellhop at, I think it was called Kushner's. I can't remember, but it was somewhere up on the in the Northeast. It's, where rich people would go to vacation, and he was like a bellhop. And then at night, a bunch of the NBA pros would play for the amusement of the rich people that were staying on the grounds. And that's where he became a legend, of course. But, 20 seasons played, 1560 games. So Kareem has a massive advantage when it comes to aggregate stuff. Regular season MVPs. Let's just start with the biggest and the glaring deal here. You give me your thoughts, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts because I have a very, very important observation when it comes to Wilt winning 4 regular season MVPs. Go for it. What do you have on this? 6-4, Kareem's favor.
Yeah, well, I also, just in acknowledgement of the point that you were making about longevity of each's career, I pulled out my little calculator app and said, who actually won a larger share of MVPs given how many seasons they played? Was it Kareem 6-20 or Wilt's 4-14? And Kareem still wins. 6-20 gives you a slightly larger number than 4 divided by 14 does. So he's got the overall edge, and he won more MVPs per season played than Wilt did too.
Okay, so let me give you my side of things, okay? So you're measuring MVP shares based on the actual votes that were cast. I got a problem with the dudes that casted the votes. Let's just start right there.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, okay, I'm going to go points and rebounds because that's really what Wilt was known for, and because we don't have blocks and steals. But keep in mind what we talked about, earlier in the show.
And Brian, let me add one more thing. Assists were much stricter. The definition of an assist during this era meant that it had to lead directly to a basket with no hesitation and no dribbling. So assists were tougher to accumulate during this era too.
I believe that became a lot more liberal in the 80s. Even in the 70s, that would have been tough. But 50s, 60s was absurd. It was almost like you had to hand the ball to the guy, and he couldn't dribble or move or do anything for you to get an assist. Yeah, no doubt. We're going to get to Wilt leading the league in assists in just a second. We're not there yet. But here's my point, okay? Wilt has 4 MVPs. Let me give you some numbers in seasons where he did not win MVP.
Yeah.
Okay? 38.4 points, 27 rebounds. He finished freaking 4th. 50 points and 25 rebounds, the greatest statistical season. I know we can argue about that all day long, but aggregate numbers, points, and rebounds, for sure, the best statistical season in NBA history. He did not win MVP. He averaged 50 points, 25 rebounds, and 10 free throws a game, and shot over 50% and did not win MVP. He got 2nd. How about the next year? He goes 45-24 and finishes 7th in MVP. Next year, 37-22, 2nd. Next year, 35-23, 5th. How about these next 2 years? 39-23, 30-22. He didn't even finish in the voting. So that, to me, reeks of horrific racism. I don't know how else to say it, but let me just guess that the majority of the writers were going to be of the Caucasian persuasion. And let me also guess that Wilt wasn't exactly soft-spoken. He was a pretty brash dude who, kind of led with his personality and would tell anybody and everybody what he thought, whether you wanted to hear what he thought or agreed with what he thought or not. And I suspect that is why he wasn't super well received, because he won MVP as a rookie, just like Wes Unseld. He won the MVP as a rookie. And then I think after the voters and the writers and all that really got to know him, and let me tell you, he was amazing with sound bites. Yeah. But as the writers got to know him, I think he started rubbing the wrong way. And then they're like, screw this dude. He ain't getting it. We're just not giving it to him, right?
He got a little cocky. Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to zoom in here. So Bill Russell won most of these other MVPs for what it's worth.
I'm assuming.
But let me just look at 60-61. Okay. Because the stat line of 38.4, and when it's bold, that means he led the league. So he had the most points per game. He had the most total rebounds per game, most free throw attempts per game, highest field goal percentage, most minutes played, most games played. I mean, he was just most everything. So here were the 3 guys who finished ahead of him. Bill Russell won the MVP that year. He got the way that the awards voting broke down, there's 380 total points, and Russell got 213. So he got about 56% of the total points. So it was pretty close.
Yeah.
But Bill Russell, his team was the number 1 overall seed that year. They were 57-22. Bill Russell averaged 17 points, 24 rebounds, and 3 assists, which, amazing stats, but listen to the guys coming behind him. He had Bob Pettit in second. He averaged 28 points, 20 rebounds, and 3 assists, which ain't bad either. No. Third place, you had Elgin Baylor, who averaged 35 points, 20 rebounds, and 5 assists. And then you get Wilt in fourth. Wilt got 81 of the 380 total points available. So he got 21% of the MVP total points that year. And like we went over Wilt. He played 48 minutes a game, 38 points, 27 rebounds, 2 assists. But the point and then right behind Wilt was Oscar Robertson, who had 31 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists a game. So none of these guys were slouches. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
they weren't.
No, like all these guys, but Wilt's numbers a cut above.
Yeah, a cut above. You know what this sounds like to me, Chris? It sounds like this. We've been talking about this in text a lot. The narrative of best player, best team, giving you a really good chance at the MVP, even if you're not the clear statistical best player in the league. Yeah. That narrative has been around for 64 years at least. That's what we can conclude, I think.
Yeah, I know. I mean, imagine trying to pick between that. You got the guy, clear best player, clear leader on the best team, putting up 17, 24, and 3. But then behind him, you got the big O, 31, 10, and 10, Wilt, 38, 27, and 2. I mean, how do you pick among that?
Yeah, it's absurd. It's ridiculous. But so let me ask you this. What do you think was the easiest era to dominate basketball for an individual how about this? What was the least talented decade for the NBA? Let's eliminate the 40s because there's only a few teams. Let's eliminate the 50s too. Let's just start
we probably
with
need
the
to
60s.
Get rid of the 50s.
What was the easiest decade to sort of win MVPs, lead the league in scoring? Like, what was the least talented, least competitive, individually competitive era? I know what I think it is. I don't even think it's really even close.
Yeah, I was probably not close, to be honest with you. A couple of things worth noting was that, the NBA reached the national stage. Basketball started reaching a national stage, and the NBA started attracting international talent, in the 90s when Michael Jordan took the baton from Bird Magic and stuff. So, like, right there, the pool of potential players who can enter the league increases by factors. So just the talent pool got a lot bigger. I think, obviously, the 60s was the era where if you were huge and athletic, there was never more of an advantage possessing those characteristics than the 60s. But the 60s, like, it just, the way the game was designed, the fact that there wasn't a 3-point line, the fact that guys played 48 minutes per game like Wilt did. I mean, the fact that they were wearing these shoes that when you factor in all the different things, it's just the game was oriented and designed to reward totally different skills and totally different physical abilities. So
the game was played very close to the basket. The idea was to get as close to the basket. It would almost be like NFL football. The goal would be to do the tush push or quarterback sneak as many times in a game as you possibly could, rather than throw it from 35 yards out towards the end zone.
So I lean 60s here. Obviously,
I don't think it's even close. I think it's the 70s.
70s.
Let me tell you why I think it's the 70s. There's two really big reasons. Number one, if I asked you to name the second best player from the 70s, right? Kareem.
I'm naming a guy who isn't even in the NBA. I'm naming Dr. J.
Exactly. That's the first point, is that the talent was split between the NBA and the ABA. So first of all, you're immediately taking it's like cutting a watermelon in half. All right, this half of the world's talent is out, right? America's talent is out. They're going to the ABA. And hell, some people would argue the ABA had more talented players, maybe not better teams, but more talented players. We never got to see them play against the NBA teams. But the other reason is, like, if I just said, okay, let's move on, right? Let's say Dr. J. Is Dr. J a top, if we're going to do this analysis, is Dr. J a top 20 player all time?
Oh, yeah.
If you combine ABA and NBA, maybe.
If you combine.
Maybe. And then after that, where do you go in the 70s for someone that could rival Kareem? I think the nearest player is going to be like Gervin, Artis Gilmore. Moses was later in the 70s. Dan Issel maybe. I don't even know, Chris. Like, where do you? I don't know who else in the set is. So I guess what I'm getting at is Kareem had a clear runway, is what I'm saying, to rack up MVPs, to rack up titles, and he only won one without Magic. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Yeah, he only won one without Magic.
Yep. No, that's right.
In your list of the guys that didn't win MVP in the season that you just recalled, I mean, Oscar, Pettit, Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor. I mean, the 60s were loaded, man. 60s were loaded with players for sure.
They were. So here's some of the names who finish in the top statistical categories during the 70s outside of Kareem.
Yeah.
Jerry West, Bob McAdoo, Rick Barry, Bob Lanier, Dave Cowens, Walt Frazier, Tiny Archibald. These are John Drew finished second one year.
Oh God.
Okay, Pete Maravich.
All great players, Chris. Listen, I don't want people to burn my house down. All great players, but we're looking for other dudes that were clear top 20 players in history from the 70s.
Just divide. You're right, man. Dividing the talent pool in half, and already it wasn't big to begin with. I mean, we're talking leagues. With
Kareem had the
teams.
whole decade too. That's the other thing is West and Baylor and some of these guys, they touched into the 70s. But Kareem had the whole runway. He had, he was a rookie in 69 all the way through in his prime. It was perfectly spanned the 70s. So Kareem had a better runway for MVPs and stuff like that. All right, let's keep moving though. Top 5 in MVP voting, Kareem 15 times, Wilt 10 times. That's not a surprise because Wilt played 2/3 of the game. He has 2/3 of the times in the top 5 MVP voting. And so always close, but only got 4 MVPs. Finals MVP. I have an asterisk on here. Oh yeah, that's why. Because NBA Finals MVP award did not begin to be handed out until 1969.
Yep.
So 69 was the first year that you could even be a Finals MVP. Kareem has 2. He had 1 obviously with the Bucks. I'm assuming. I didn't even look, but I assumed his first one was the Bucks.
Yep. And first one was the Bucks in 71.
Yeah, and then the other one, Chris, is when you and I talked about it, and we sort of gave Magic the nod anyway as the alpha, but Kareem won the Finals MVP that one year with Magic, and it was actually one of the later titles I think that the Lakers won, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, let me just give a little respect to that Finals MVP because it came in 1985. That was the series that featured the Memorial Day Massacre, where the Lakers got blown out in Game 1, and then they came back to win 4-2. Kareem was 38 years old in that finals, and he averaged 26 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1.5 blocks, and he got the Finals MVP. 38 years old, so
17th season,
not bad.
Yeah. Total rings, we know that Kareem has 6, and we know that Wilt has only 2. One with the Warriors, one with the super team, the Lakers team. In that Lakers championship, I feel like Elgin Baylor retired like 11 games into the season. It was something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody can double check me on that. But that was still Gail Goodrich and Jerry West and Wilt. Pretty nice trio of talent there, even without Elgin Baylor. All NBA first teams, Kareem 11, Wilt Chamberlain 7. All NBA total teams, Kareem 15, Wilt 10. Again, we're back to the 2/3, right? Every time you look at it, it's going to be Wilt getting 2/3 of what Kareem got because he played 2/3 as many seasons, or 3/4, 2/3 as many games. And that's advantage Kareem. So, I mean, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 aggregate things that matter. And it's all Kareem all day long. And it would probably be all Kareem all day long against almost anybody up to this point. Defensive Player of the Year, we mentioned it. No award for Defensive Player of the Year was given until 1982. All defensive teams, that did not begin until 1968. I suspect that Bill Russell probably would have gotten all of those anyway because they probably only did 1 center on the all defensive team, and they probably only did 1 team. I don't know that, but they probably would have only done 1 team anyway. But Kareem's got 11 all defensive, and Wilt's got 2. So Kareem was eligible for an all-defensive team his entire career because his rookie year was in 69. So that's obviously, again, I put an asterisk on here because it's like here we are filling in the blanks. Here's your favorite stat, right? Your new favorite stat, right? All league plus all defense. Asterisk on Wilt because all defense, he wasn't eligible. Kareem's at 26. Now, we looked at Kobe and we looked at Duncan. I think they were 27 and 30 respectively.
Yep.
And here's Kareem at 26. So right nipping on their heels. I think that's the top 3 in history as far as the all league plus all defensive metric.
Yeah, it is. So Kareem is checking boxes in multiple arenas. He's got longevity. He's got, dominance during his prime. He's got a lot going for him.
How would Kareem do if you took 1970 Kareem in his second year, just 1970 Kareem as a 24-year-old dude at a Power Memorial in UCLA, and dropped him into 2025? What if he was on the Pacers right now? What if he was on this 2025 Pacers team? Would he be backing up Miles Turner? Probably not. Would he?
Well, here's the thing, man. Like, have you watched? I mean, it came later, much later in his life. But did you ever watch that Kareem dunk contest?
Oh, it was awful.
That's the worst. That's the worst footage that. I mean, just if he could just delete that footage.
I remember watching it thinking, I would have done pretty well in this dunk contest. I'm like, that's not a good thing either. You know what I mean? That's not a good thing. Like, I'd have done okay.
Right.
So Kareem would have been in trouble on a given day.
Yeah, you got to give him the benefit of saying if Kareem was born in the same year Miles Turner was born, and he has the same physical gifts he has, but he was raised in this era. Because his accuracy with the sky hook. I mean, there's reasons to think that he could have been a shooter. He could have done a lot in this era.
Can't play small against him. There's just no. I mean, you can, but you better make that small, that pick and pop, Draymond Green or whoever the hell you want to put at that small center position. Right. Better outscore Kareem because it's going to be a bucket every time, and they're going to throw it into him every time, and it's going to be a uncontested skyhook every single time. All-star teams 1913. I took their primes here, Chris. Did you look at their prime five and kind of come to terms? Does this look right? 70 to 75 for Kareem.
Definitely.
And then 59 to 64 for Wilt.
Yep.
Okay, here's what I did. I went on basketballreference.com and I put their primes next to each other. Okay. And no surprise, Wilt leads in Wilt actually played more games in those seasons than Kareem, and he certainly played more minutes because one season Wilt played more than 48 minutes a game, which is again one of the greatest stats ever.
Yeah.
Wilt was 41.7 and 25.3 over a 5-year period. Kareem had a few more assists, like I said, a little bit relaxed standard, and then they did not keep steals and blocks, and so Kareem is going to be highlighted in green. Chris, can we safely say that Wilt would have averaged more than 1 point steal and certainly more than 3.4 blocks?
Yep.
I think he would have averaged. I think
double both of those.
Yeah, he might have had the most steals in the NBA. I mean, honestly, to be honest with you, I mean, just from the clips that I've watched, and as long as he was, and he was just a very unique. Of course, Bill Russell probably got his share of steals. He worked pretty hard. Field goal percentage, Kareem. Free throw percentage, Kareem. What was a notoriously horrible free throw shooter, except for that one night in Hershey, Pennsylvania, somehow. Effective field goal percentage, and then we can't use box plus minus or VORP, so we can kind of nix a lot of the hyper analytics that we would like to use. Yeah. Down here, when it comes to awards, again, all defense wasn't awarded. I hate the fact that we can't have a true comparison. You almost wish Wilt would have come along exactly 10 years later so we'd know. But that's what's going to make these videos so tough when you take one of these prehistoric guys like Wilt and try to plug him in and compare him. Are you ready for some trivia?
Let's go.
Okay, I'm taking the screen down. All right, I am on Basketball Reference, and I'm going to give you a nickname, okay? And it's not going to be like the Stilt, okay? It's not, so it's going to be a nickname, and you have to tell me if Basketball Reference says this is a nickname for Wilt or this is a nickname for Kareem. Keep in mind, both these guys played long, Kareem was playing when you were born, but you weren't watching it, right?
Right.
So we're really putting your book reading and your history to the test.
Yeah, I got to focus here.
Here's some nicknames. Big Musty.
Big
Kareem,
Musty.
Kareem or Wilt? Big Musty.
That used to be my nickname. Big Musty, that's got to be Wilt.
That is Wilt, correct. Hook and Ladder.
That's got to be Kareem, right, for the sky hook?
It's not. It's Wilt.
It's Wilt. Okay.
It's Wilt.
Okay, I can see because he's so tall. Okay.
How unfair is that? How about Murdoch?
Murdoch. I'm just gonna say Wilt just because it sounds older.
It's Kareem. You don't know why it's Kareem?
That means nothing to me.
Did you ever see the movie Airplane?
Nah. No, I have not.
Chris, you got to go watch the movie Airplane. Kareem plays a very important role in the comedy movie Airplane. Okay, it's before your time.
Before my time.
How about Tower of Power?
Tower of Power. Wilt.
It's Kareem. Last one.
That could be both. I don't know.
It could be both for sure. Last one. You ready?
All right.
Norm. Norm, like from Cheers. Rest in peace.
Norm, like from Cheers. Yeah. R.I.P. Norm. Golly. All right. I don't know even a way to parse this because it must be some pop culture reference that means nothing to me. But I'm gonna go Wilt. Give me Wilt.
It's Wilt. It's Wilt. Okay. You got the last one right. All right. We'll kill trivia.
I got the first and the last one.
Whenever you get a chance, go on Basketball Reference and look at some of the nicknames for some of these guys, and it's like who no one ever called. You know what my favorite nickname on all of Basketball References is? Kobe Wade. Kobe Wade. Do you know who took the nickname Kobe Wade? No. What is that? Like it's Kobe Bryant and Dwayne Wade, obviously. Yeah. And Dion Waiters takes the nickname Kobe Wade. Here's how that happened. You want me to tell you how that happened? Yes. Sometime in the mid-2000s, Dion Waiters walked into the Cleveland Cavs locker room and said, "From now on, I want you to call me this. Please call me this. I think it is that. Somebody say this in an interview so it'll stick, right?" Because nobody looked at Dion Waiters and said, "I'm going to start calling this guy Kobe Wade." Kobe Wade. I mean, come on. Okay. That's awesome. Let's at least sniff the analytics here. I mean, we can try our best. Just a taste. Let's just skip this. We know Kareem couldn't score with Wilt, even though he has more aggregate because he played so much longer. We know he couldn't rebound with Wilt. What about assists per game? Wilt is more than Kareem. Is that right? Did I get that right? I did. 4.4 to 3.6. Yeah, that's what I got too. 4.4 to 3.6. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I guess Will did have that pivot later in his career when he said, "Fine, you guys want me to focus more on winning? I'll just pass it every time." And he led the league in assists. He did it out of spite, literally, just like on a Seinfeld episode. I'm going to do it out of spite. He led the league in assists for at least a season, right? I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah, he led the league in assists for a season. It was under 10, but it led the league. Steals and blocks were not kept until 1973, which sucks. Because I would just love to go back and see, there's these guys that recreate based on the limited footage that they have, but they do have some full length Wilt games, but they don't go back as far as we want them to. And obviously nobody has the 100-point game recorded, but some of the historians, I've read stories, and again, you don't know what's folklore and what's a legend and what's actual truth, but these guys reconstructed it and extrapolated it, and they think that there were games where Wilt had 20 plus blocks, and it was not a rare occurrence. And there are seasons where he would have averaged anywhere from 10 to 12 blocks a game, which means he would have been the original person to average a triple-double over the course of a season. Yeah, and doing it with blocks, which is just unthinkable. I mean, I don't know how true that is, but I bet you there were games where you had 20 blocks for sure. I remember David Robinson and Shaq had a couple of in their youth. Had very early years in the NBA, had a couple of monster block games, like 12, 15, 16, stuff like that. Yep. This is not even really worth looking at, to be quite honest with you. PER is worth looking at. They're both very, very good. Wilt's better, 26.2. Brian, let me ask you, can you throw it up on the screen? Oh, my bad. I forgot to screen share. You got to just scream. There we go. 26.2 PER for Wilt. Wilt's over here in this right column that I've highlighted and right here. So Wilt's 26.2, 7th all time. Pretty impressive number. Kareem PER 24.6, 14th all time over here. Kareem, this is where it cuts both ways, and we saw this with a lot of the guys not named LeBron that play into their 20th, 21st seasons. Is those twilight years tend to get you, and your PER comes down, your points per game comes down, your assists come down, your rebounds come down. Wilt retired as a really, really valuable player in the NBA. By the time Kareem called it quits, one of his gifts on his farewell tour was a rocking chair. You know what I mean? So it's like, he probably liked it and used it. So as he got later in his career, we saw it with Tim Duncan. We even saw it a little bit with Kobe Bryant, notwithstanding the last game he played. But their numbers, your numbers are going to dwindle massively. Yep. Defensive rating, offensive rating, not even worth looking at. That's not your favorite anyway, I know. Win shares, does this matter? First and third all time, these two guys, first and third, Chris.
Well, for Wilt to be third is particularly impressive just because he played so many fewer games than some of the other all-time greats. So it means a lot for Wilt, I think, for sure.
I think I can't even process it because he's played 3/4 of the season that Kareem played. Kareem is the first all-time, and Wilt is third all-time. How many seasons did Jordan play, Chris? Wasn't it 13?
Well, and then you got to throw in the two Wizards.
Was it? I thought that was 13. No,
I thought
more.
Maybe it got up to 15 if you
maybe it got up to 15. Okay, so more than Wilt. So I wonder where Jordan is on the win share.
Jordan had 1,072 games played.
So almost identical to Wilt.
Yeah.
1,045. Yep. Bird and Magic, if I recall, were right at a little under 1,000. No, maybe 900 something.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yep, that sounds about right.
What else do we have on here? Win shares per 48 minutes. That's the one you and I kind of like more, I guess, to some extent. Fourth for Wilt, sixth for Kareem. Their win shares, defensive win shares, offensive win shares, and win shares per 48 is truly, truly elite, which is why we're looking at these two guys together.
Oh, yeah.
And then Kareem, shockingly enough, his box plus minus and his VORP aren't that great, but that wasn't recorded until 73. So he's missing 4 of his best years, or 3 of his best years, and 3 years that we included in his super prime as his 3 of his 5 best years. Same thing with VORP. 73 was the year that was done, and then usage wasn't recorded until 77. So you could ignore Kareem's usage rate because that's not really fair. Not that it really matters anyway. What are we thinking here, Chris? Anything else we need to talk about that we haven't talked about? I want to talk about teammates. There's an easy narrative that people tend to latch onto because the Celtics roster was so great. They act like Wilt didn't have any help. Yeah. Wilt had help. Okay. Wilt had help. He had Hall of Famers on his team. He had great teammates. The league was smaller, so there was a higher, percentage chance of winning the title then than there is now, where there's 30 teams or whatever. But if I ask the casual observer, hey, who was Wilt's best teammate? How many people you think are gonna spit, have Hal Greer roll off their tongue, or whoever the hell the answer? I don't even know who the answer is, and I pretty much live basketball. I would say Hal Greer.
Nope, I would be at a total loss, honestly. That era to me is Bill Russell and the Celtics and Wilt on the other side.
That's it. And then Pettit is the only player in history to sneak one during their concurrent careers,
right?
With the St. Louis Hawks, I believe, back then.
Yeah.
Pettit, of course, from here, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. One of LSU greats. So I guess this is the question. Well, let's play the game, right? They play the same position. Yeah. Their era was separated by a decade. But how do you think Wilt would have fared if you had given him what Kareem was given? And, with Oscar Robertson for the first title, if you give him Magic, Cooper, Norm Nixon, big game James Worthy, Byron Scott, and all those guys. And of course, the sexy, sexy Kurt Rambis. If you give all those guys to Wilt, what does Wilt's numbers look like? Are we still looking at 2 titles and 4 MVPs, or are we looking at like 9 titles and 9 MVPs or something crazy? That's the kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think there would be a trade-off, though. I don't think he gets to play 48 minutes plus per game. I don't think he gets to score 50 points per game. I think that there's some trade-off there. And, Kareem does have to get a little bit of a benefit just for being able to play as long as he played and take care of his body and have the health fortune that he was able to have. And also for the skills that he had. I mean, when we were comparing their field goal percentages during their 5-year primes and their free throw percentages, the free throw percentage is a pretty good indicator of shooting skill. And Kareem was about, 15 percentage points ahead. And then he was about 5 percentage points ahead on the field goal percentage metric too. So I think you got to kind of give Kareem a little credit too, just for probably being a more skilled shooter and having perhaps the most unguardable shot in the history of the league with the sky hook. So, Kareem had certain skills that Wilt just didn't have, but Wilt had the athleticism of a player maybe we've never even seen before, but maybe Giannis is a comp, maybe somebody like that, Shaq or something, just from the physical dominance point of view.
Yeah.
So I Wilt obviously would have dominated with the Lakers too, but it would have looked different. It wouldn't have been the sky hook and in a skilled game. It would have been more of a physical dominance.
Yeah. What's funny is if and I encourage everybody to go, if you're super young, right, if you're in your 20s and you think Wilt Chamberlain's like Babe Ruth, right? Like a fat guy eating hot dogs and drinking beer and then going out and hitting a home run and then trotting around the base without lifting his feet. Go watch Wilt's highlight reels. He shoots like a bazillion huge fadeaways, bank shots. It's really weird. Like, I didn't realize it either. I was like, well, this guy's just drop stepping and dunking everything, right? Everything.
Yeah.
And when you go back and watch his highlights, he shoots shots that people in the NBA today would not allow players to take. Like, literally catch the ball on the block, and by the time he releases it, he's like 16 feet away from the goal, fading away, almost like Jordan, Chris. Like those types of deep fadeaways, right? Real extreme angles. He loved to use the glass. He finger rolled a lot. Man, it's an interesting comparison. You got to choose one. That's where we are, man. We're at the point where...
This is funny. This is funny because I think on the first 2 episodes we agreed. I think we're gonna go our separate ways on this one. Yeah. I think we are. I think we're going, which is good. I was waiting. We're gonna go our separate ways.
I don't even want to do it. Like, there's so much gray. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's so much gray area. It's like I don't want to.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's there's a lot of context needed, but okay. So, Brian, when I go into these, like I've said every time, I start from the point of view that the McGill metric of total MVPs, and what that metric says is Kareem is tied for second most in NBA history with 8. Only guys ahead of him are MJ with 11, and then LeBron is also tied with 8. So Kareem's got 8 total MVPs. And Wilt has 5. Yep. And Wilt is tied with Duncan, Bird, and Bill Russell with 5. So nothing wrong with being in that category. And you have rightly pointed out in this video, people will rightly point out to me anytime I mention this to them, that finals MVPs were not available during Wilt's first championship. And I understand that, but
my reply, give it to him. Yeah, I mean,
you could just give it to him. But my reply also is that, and I agree, that's not fair to Wilt, but there was only 10 teams in the league during his first championship. So the league didn't need 2 different MVPs for that season. It just needed 1.
Yeah.
You didn't need finals and regular season. You just needed 1. And that's why they didn't have it. But anyway, so I start from the point of view that Kareem is ahead of Wilt there pretty comfortably at 8-5, understanding that there's context there, right? Understanding that, Kareem played in a diluted talent pool and, half the talent's over in the ABA, and Kareem had the benefit of playing on great teams that got him to the finals, that gave him more chances to get more finals MVPs. Okay, the other thing I look at too is which guy was the top statistical player the most times. And I use a metrics blend of all of Basketball References, rate-based advanced stats. And so for portions like before 73, 74, there's no BPM, there's only player efficiency rating and win shares per 48. But compiling that for the history of the NBA, Kareem has the most what I call spreadsheet MVPs. Yeah. He has 11. He even has more than MJ, who has 9. And now Kareem tied for first twice. So take that for what it's worth. But Kareem has 11 statistical or spreadsheet MVPs. MJ second with 9. Wilt is third with 8. So Wilt is right up there again. He's got 8, but Kareem just all I can ask, I can't ask Kareem to do more than be the best player in the NBA when he played.
You played the schedule they give you, man.
He played who was in front of him. And given that, there's a real argument that Kareem is either the most or one of the 3 most dominant players relative to his era, relative to his peers that we've ever seen. Wilt is up there too, but not quite as high on either of my metrics. So for those reasons, and even acknowledging what we've said here, which is that we have to make adjustments and acknowledge eras. But even doing that, I haven't been moved off of Kareem being ahead.
Biggest margin yet? Bigger margin than Kobe and Duncan? Bigger margin than Bird and Magic? It's hard to be less of a margin.
It's
I mean, you sit down at a table, Chris, with you're the Kareem guy, and then Wilt's got a spokesman. You got to sit down at the table and have a conversation.
Well,
it's not like that. It's not like Patrick Ewing versus Kareem.
It's just so funny because because somebody could make a compelling argument that Wilt, in terms of just like, hey, if you sat there, if you got to teleport to the mid 60s and watch Wilt play at his absolute peak against his competition, then go watch Kareem in the early 70s play at his very best, somebody might come away and say, man, Wilt, what do you mean Kareem was more dominant? Wilt was more dominant. I just watched this guy score 73 points.
These guys are getting worse. why is this Kareem guy so bad?
So that's what's so funny about it, is like Bird and Magic, you could say, yeah, I could watch both of these guys play and say, yeah, these guys are both great. Or you could watch Kobe and Duncan, different positions, but you could say, man, I watched both of these guys. And so you might almost say Wilt has such an eye test advantage relative to Kareem but so it would be weird to say the gap is bigger, but in terms of accolades, and the accolades I look at, this is the biggest gap between any two guys we've compared so far. But again, I don't feel comfortable saying that this is a blowout. And if somebody came to me, and maybe you're going to make an argument for Wilt right now, I think you are. I would have to acknowledge a lot of compelling points and acknowledge the fact that there are other systems of evaluating this that could say Wilt was better, and according to those systems, they're right. But my system says I give the nod. I give the nod to Kareem.
Yeah, it's fair. It's a well-reasoned argument, and it's fair. I'm going with Wilt. Since I was a kid, it's been Wilt. Anybody, 42 and 25 for your 5 prime years. And the counter argument, Chris, that a Kareem supporter would say is, well, drop Kareem in 1961 and let's see if Kareem does 45 and 23. He really might. I mean, if Bill Russell was getting 24 rebounds a game, then Kareem probably would have gotten the rebounds. Can we say that? He's 4 inches taller than Bill Russell. Kareem's like 7'2", 7'3". Bill Russell's like 6'10".
Yep.
And so he probably would have gotten the 24 rebounds that Bill Russell was getting and the 25 that Wilt was getting. And could he average 11, 12, 13 more points? I don't know. If he played 48 minutes a game, he probably could.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to say here. I think this one is the closest one because my heart says no player in history has made his peers, even the ones winning MVP, look more inferior than Wilt Chamberlain did during his era. But no era was it easier to do that than in Wilt's era. And so for that reason, it's really tough. I'm going to give it to Kareem, and I can't believe I'm saying this because my whole life I've always said bing, 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 bing in order, and here I am. I think it might be Kareem, and I'm going to reward him for the longevity aspect of it. A lot of people will be like, well, it's taken LeBron, this many years to do this. Well, I agree, but I think that's a positive. If somebody can play for 21, 22 years, that is damn impressive, dude.
Sure.
And Wilt was great during his era, but I'm going to give the slight edge to Kareem. Let me ask you 2 questions.
All right.
These are trivia questions. We're back to trivia. You ready?
Okay. Wait, so just to be clear, are you giving the slight edge to Kareem?
I am, man. Wow. I am giving a
you
slight
kind of
edge
changed your mind as you sort of went through this exercise and you compiled all the stats and you thought it through.
It's real simple. If you put Kareem in 1961, he would have. I don't want to say he would have replicated it. I don't want to say he would have matched it. Point for point, rebound for rebound, block for block. Kareem would have been a damn problem in 1961. It just like Wilt was in 1961. And if his coach said, Kareem, you've got the green light, shoot as many times as you want. Honest to God, he might have scored more than 50 because the hook shot was a significantly more efficient shot than Wilt's dive away, fade away. Yep. And Wilt wasn't dunking every ball.
Okay.
It's just there's so much folklore surrounding Wilt. Hot national high jump champion, national 400-meter champion, a professional volleyball player, world #1 ranked racquetball player, lifting more weight than Arnold Schwarzenegger, the 10,000 women. I mean, you can go on and on and on. There's so much folklore and legendary stuff about him. But I do believe if you drop Kareem back there. Now, here's the one thing I'll say about both of these dudes that are on the screen, Wilt and Kareem, is that if you put them on the Celtics, those numbers do come down, but they're winning 10 or 11, just like Bill
Sure.
Russell did. I can tell you that right now. I don't care what anybody says. And all the old, folks are going to say, well, Bill Russell was just a better teammate. Well, sometimes it's easier to be a better teammate in a certain situation. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think Wilt and Kareem would have replicated what Bill Russell did and more. And that's the reason I chose these two guys for our matchup. And this was all on me, right? Most people would have expected Wilt versus Bill Russell. I don't have Bill Russell in the conversation with these two guys personally. I'll let the cat out of the bag on that. I don't know where you stand on that. Do you have him somewhere behind these two guys?
Bill Russell never won a spreadsheet MVP, which is meaningful to me. He never had a season in which he was the top statistical player. I'm just like reviewing my list just to make sure that's correct, but I'm pretty sure that is correct. He didn't. So that as compared to Kareem, who had 11, and Wilt, who had 8. So that counts for something. And then on the total MVP count, Bill Russell's at 5, which is, tied with Wilt at 5. And that kind of works out really nicely, actually, because it sort of splits that era among Wilt, who had obviously incredible individual achievements, and Russell, who had the team achievement component to it. And so I'm content, actually, those guys being tied at 5 total MVPs.
It's funny, Chris, because, the Wilt Russell thing, we could be having that same type of argument today, but Jordan rattled off 6. You know what I mean? Because Jordan was well on his way to being the next Wilt Chamberlain. This guy can do things nobody else can do. He's dominating the game, but he can't win. Like, that was literally the narrative about Michael Jordan for about, 5-6 years? That was the narrative. He can't win the big one because he's too selfish. He's not a team player, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then 6,
And then 6, and then, great teams, great coach. But the fact that I think the single biggest factor was Scottie Pippen on a contract that cost peanuts during that whole run. I mean, you got a guy who's, finished top 10 in MVP a few times, and he's making, $2 million a year. Like that's
Scottie's fault. A lot of
it
that
is.
Scottie's
No,
fault.
he agreed that there was nothing illicit about it. Scottie decided to take a safe contract, but that mechanism alone allowed for that Bulls team to just, rotate from Horace Grant to Dennis Rodman to fill out that roster, to, drafting Kukoc. I mean, all the little moves that got made to put together that great team around the greatest player. It all had to happen for those 6 to come down.
So the trivia question that I was going to ask you, I'm going to put you big on the spot here. How many teams were in the NBA in 1972?
Well, I know in 67 it was 10. 72 probably was a few more. I'm going to say 14.
17 teams.
17?
Odd number there, but 17 teams were in the NBA in 1972. So we can agree, when you compare rings, not all rings are the same because of the number of teams, and not all rings are the same, because of were you the best player or were you Robert Horry, right?
And who did you play? I mean, if depending on how nuanced we want to get, I've read think pieces talking about Dirk's 2011 championship and how he went through Kobe and Gasol, and then he went through Durant and Westbrook and Harden, and then he went through LeBron and Bosh and Wade, and so you can make an argument that ring is worth 2 or 3 other. Yeah, exactly.
I think it's the most valuable ring in the history of basketball.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not going to get him. It's not going to get Dirk into this conversation, though.
No. He's a step down here.
He's a little step down. Still tough, though. All right. What about 1961?
1961. See, they would flip back and forth between like 8, 12, and 10. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna say in 61 there were 12 teams.
8.
Okay, 8 teams, man. We were just in the round of 8 teams in the NBA playoffs, and a lot of teams had to get knocked out before could happen.
That's right. Now imagine if like 4 of those teams were just dog ass terrible, right? Now you're basically in a Final Four. The season starts and it's a Final Four. I mean, and for that reason, that's why when people talk about Bill Russell's 10 or 11 or whatever, I don't know, man. it's just not, it's like apples and oranges, man. There's just no, like, I'm not going to let those rings propel a player, a right time, right place player. And he was a great player. I get all that, and a great teammate. I'm not going to let those kind of rings propel a guy into a conversation with these two guys that we're talking about today. It's just not the same thing, man. So I don't know. I'm not a big ring guy. You know, it is a team sport, but it is what it is. So
yeah, well, you saw I made a post to Instagram a few days ago that said, "Hey, if we rank the best players by who won the most championships, you get this list." And I had people replying to me saying, "Who the hell is Jim Lokasov?" Who the? And they got, Robert Ory has 7, and he's sitting above Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and stuff. And I think that shot that more than any argument I could make, just putting that list in front of people and saying, maybe there's more to the game than just ring.
Maybe there's more to it when like 7 of the top 10 are Celtics from the 60s.
From the same damn team.
So, that's right. Well, that's it, Chris. That one's in the books. I can't believe you swayed me, man. You persuaded me. I actually,
Brian, I think there's going to be a 50% chance that you're going to text me tonight and say, "Man, I should have said Wilt."
No, yeah. And well, look, it's not my final list, but I don't see Wilt. I don't see him jumping Kareem, man. I think I know where Kareem fits in the final 10 in order. Okay. And I think I know where Wilt fits in the final 10 in order. And I think they just flip-flop for me personally. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Guys, this was the 3rd episode, Wilt versus Kareem. Kobe versus Duncan was first. Bird versus Magic, which everybody will enjoy, was second. And then we're going to do another one after this. Chris, I haven't decided, but we're going to probably do maybe 2 or 3 more of these, and then we'll finish it off with our final video where we do our top 10 in order, and we won't go into as much depth. I might say, give me your number 10, give me your number 9. Why is 10 9? Why is 9 9 and not 10? And you can give me 1 or 2 main points, and then we'll move to the next one. Otherwise, it'd be a 10-hour video, and we'd be re-arguing the things we've already
rehashing
argued.
it. Yeah.
So that last video will be where the shit hits the wall. We're going to find out and get some answers, and it's going to be clear and direct. So, Chris, thanks for joining again. We'll set it up for next week, and we'll try to space these out maybe a week apart. All of them should be right at an hour, and this was a fun one for sure, despite the fact that there was a lot of gray area. You don't get me to change my mind very often, especially you, out of spite. Just like the MVP voters would not give Wilt the award out of spite, and just like Wilt led the league in assists out of spite. Yep. I often don't change my mind when you argue with me just out of spite, but today you did it.
Look, I mean, I think I took a very subtle route. If I came over the top with it, it wouldn't have worked. But I was very.
You did a great job. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you all for watching. Keep collecting. Stay positive in the hobby. And peace.